Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sasha. Today I'm going to be showing you how I do my everyday makeup tips and techniques. Doesn't really matter what look you go for, whether you like full coverage, whether you like really natural. These are just the tips and techniques that I religiously use, have been using for 10 years. And may I just add, I am a professionally trained makeup artist. So it's been ages since I've done like a technique-y. First up, brows. I am using the Schwarzkopf Glue to Be Brow Gel. I'm pretty sure that even though the last time I did a makeup tutorial was 100 years ago, this is still what I was using. It seems to be the only thing that holds my brows in place. So I get these little disposable spoolies from Amazon and I brush the product through in one direction and then pull it back through in the opposite direction, just so that the hairs are like fully coated. And then I just brush the hairs into place. And I tend to do this before I put moisturizer on as well, because the skin underneath can obviously be a bit producty. And then I use the back of the spoolie, this wooden thing, just to flatten down. Moisturizer, I'm going to be using the Beauty Pie moisturizer. I love the whole range, if I'm being honest. This is like one of those real juicy moisturizers, you know, where your skin just feels like you've had a massive glass of water. Their body moisturizer in this version is also my fave. Okay, whilst our moisturizer sets in, we're gonna go to the eyes. I have a very backwards way of working. It's just what works for me. I feel like if you layer product upon product, then the product never really gets to do what it needs to do. I'm obsessed with the Vive eye ones at the moment. Not even at the moment, for a very long time I've been obsessed with them. My most used shade is the shade Sand. It's just a very neutral, kind of color balancing shade. And what I do with this is roughly apply it to the base of my eyelid. Eye blending, this is my favorite brush to use. This is the Zoeva 227. But I would argue it is actually loosely based off MAC 217. Both of those are my favourite brushes. I start on the inner corner of my eye, tiny circular motions just to buff out the edges, and then as I get to the outer edge, I kind of drag that product out. In this part of the eye, I'm kind of doing small circular motions until I get to about here, and then I start dragging that product out, going back and forth. The same on the bottom part of the eyelid, but I'm bringing it up and out, so I'm making more of an elongated shape. I always take my finger and just scoop like that. It just helps to manipulate the shape a little bit. And as you can see, it's not really done much, but it's done enough to make that kind of just balance out, colour correct a little bit. Once I put my Vive eye wand on, I pretty much use this palette no matter what I'm doing. It is incredible, and this man can take my money no matter what he brings out. This colour here is what I will start with. A little bit of a fluffier brush. This is the Vive 217. Oh, interesting they called that 217. So I'm just going to dust that all over, kind of set the eye wand in place. Let's keep this brush, why not? Then I'm going to go in with a slightly lighter colour, this shade here, which is matte 1. I mean, they're just all called matte 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many there are. And run that kind of through my crease, just to deepen my crease a little bit. I like to have a bit of colour poking up out the top, even though my eyes are slightly hooded. Even if you wanted to add shimmer or a glitter or something to the centre part of your eye, you've got like a real nice base there. SPF always. So now that my moisturiser feels a little bit more set into my skin, I'm going to go in with my SPF. It sits very nicely under makeup. It's just really nice and thin. Okay, so that's like my skin prepped. I would say my most requested makeup style tip, whatever you want to call it, is how I do my smoky wing. And it's interesting because I've definitely noticed as I've gotten older, my eyes are getting more, I don't know, this one kind of comes down a little bit more than this one. So it wasn't as easy to do as back in the day, but still I'm going to show you how to do it because I think it's a really flattering style for your eye. The Makeup by Mario eyeliners are just, I mean, I can't even explain how good they are. I have not picked up a single other pencil eyeliner since I bought these. The way I start is by sharpening it because it's blunt as hell. I'm going to start by drawing a thicker, chunkier, doesn't need to be neat, squiggle on the outer quarter of my eyelid, like so. Then I'm going to bring it over into the center. This brush is from the Spectrum KJH collaboration and it's the number 18, and I feel like it is perfect for this. I start by going back and forth over the line, and the aim is to make the outer edge thicker and then fall into a thinner edge. I very gently tease out that outer line. It doesn't really matter how neat it is at this point, but you just want to make sure you're getting that smoke back and forth over the line. And you want to see it as you're dragging the product thinner into the eye one way and thicker out of the eye the other way. So when you've got this kind of shape here, that's when I would then take my finger and just use it to sharpen up and also to manipulate the direction of the wing. As you can see, this is still a bit patchy, so I will need to go back in over the top, but at least we've got the stencil down already. So I'm taking a little bit more towards the base, the exact same technique, very gently and very small motions, like so. That to me is still a little bit thick, so you can just, with no extra product, taper it off. And it all depends on your eye shape. I find that now my eyes are kind of coming down a little bit, I need a bit more of a thicker wing there, like that. So it kind of blurs and blends into nothing. I find my other eye much more difficult to do and to match up because they're not quite identical. But all I would say is just to take it bit by bit and do small amounts, little and often, and then build it up into the shape and depth that you want. Okay, so both wings are done, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the Makeup by Mario palette again. This is another one of my favourite brushes in the world. It is the My Kit Co My Precise Crease brush. I've been using this for years, and I'm mixing a few of the brown colours, and then I will run that over the top. Don't need to be neat because we're going to go in again with the bigger brush. And then this brush, going back in with your whatever you use to put your Vive sticker on, going back over it again. So that really helps to get a diffused, gorgeous, seamless blend. I also find this really helps to make it last longer as well, because the combination between a cream product with a powder on top is really quite something. Again, trust the process. I'm now leaving my eyes. I'm going back in with skin. So my moisturiser had time to chill, my SPF's had time to chill. Now we're going in with a base, like a foundation base. This is the By Terry Brightening CC Serum in the shade Sunny Flash. Whoa, what's happened to my focus? This is my new favourite foundation brush. It is the Beauty Pie Pro Colour Angled Cheek. So we're starting off with a bit of a bronzy base. You can fully wear this on its own, and I definitely feel like as I'm aging, I prefer the feel of not that much on my skin, which is another reason why I really like the products to just like settle in, you know. Foundation, I'm using the Clarins Skin Illusion. This is definitely one of my favourite foundations. It is just like skin going on skin, but I've never used this combination before of the Sunny Flash and this. So I would definitely say my foundation preference style hasn't changed too much. I still like to do everything in layers, and I still like to keep this area completely free of foundation. Reason being, the skin under your eye is just, it's so thin and it doesn't need overpower of products. I prefer to use a lot smaller amount of product and build it up if I need to. I'm going to be trying the Vive Modern Radiance Concealers. What a combination that is. Oh gosh, that is light. Just pop a bit there. Okay, it's quite thick, quite creamy. Bit there. Press it out with the brush a little bit, and then set over the sponge. Wow. What an absolutely stunning concealer that is. It's kind of like full coverage, but you don't know it's full coverage. Does that make any sense? Do you know what? It's so gorge. Might even try it under the eye. And that is saying something because I do not like to mess around with my under eye products. This is the Magic Eye Eraser in the shade 2. It balances out my colouring slightly before I go in with a concealer. I'll show you the difference on both eyes so you can see. It's so minor, but it does make a difference. We are going to try the lighter shade of the Vive concealer under my eye. It is a hard graft to get an under eye concealer that is just as good. I feel like you need two different products. I feel like you need an under eye concealer and then like a base concealer. I find it's very difficult to find one that does both. The NARS Creamy Concealer is a good example of one that does both, but let's see. So I'm gonna put a dab there and then a dab on the outer corner. I still fear that this could be a little bit light for me. And then I'll take the brush and, oh shit, this is gonna be too light. Disperse the product, just sort of going back and forth. When I get to the outer edge, I keep my brush movements just completely straight so that I'm not going into any of the shape that we've created. By going back and forth, following the direction of the liner, which is only just gonna elongate the whole look. Okay, I think perhaps it's stunning, but I think I needed the darker colour. I don't think light one is for me. Let's add a bit of warmth to the skin because we're looking a bit flat. I'm using the Refi bronzer in the shade Tan. It's loved. This is the Morphe Aerial Brush A58. I feel like you need something short and stubby to do a cream bronzer. This is very pigmented, so don't be alarmed because we're going to buff it out after. But I like to start by pressing it into my temples like that. And I have to say, this has replaced my Chanel. This has replaced my Chanel cream bronzer. I find this part of my hair, you know, like you kind of, if you had a sideburn, the start of the sideburn, and then I press it in, but I try and keep it really high so that I can feel it hitting my cheekbone and I'm like cupping just underneath that. You could also do this with a contour shade. It depends how much makeup you want. But for me, for this sort of look, I don't feel like that's very necessary. I also like to take this bronzer across the bridge of my nose. Then I'm gonna go back in with my foundation brush and just press on top. Diffuse and blur out the edges. Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. You do not need two bronzers in your life, you just absolutely don't. I'm just a bit excessive like that. Even when I used to work on counter and with clients, I'm a very mixy product person. I like to put things together with other things and see how they work together, and so I go in with a powder on top. However, I will say if you're going to use a cream product, I always think it's longer lasting if you set it with a powder after. I'm pressing the Airbrush Flawless on top in the same place, but obviously with a bigger brush, so it's just going to hit a wider area. And then the powder bronzer is also the one that I'll take down my neck. I wouldn't normally take a cream bronzer down my neck just because of like rubbing on clothes and stuff like that. This is one of my favourite powders in the entire world, and it is the Beauty Pie Translucent Loose Setting Powder. I have also recently started liking to use like a poofy, whatever you call them, a poof. So I'll fold it in half just to get a little bit more precise, and then I press into my under eye. Doesn't matter if there's a bit of excess product because we're going to knock that off after. And then also I press it into the places where I tend to get a bit more oily, shiny. This is the Real Techniques setting brush. Oh, who knew? I'll use that to knock off excess. I'm not a powder all over the face kind of girl. I'm a powder in places you need it kind of girl. Even if you want to keep everything really neutral underneath, like really light and not too heavy, I would always recommend taking a little bit of your bronzer underneath, just because it does nothing without doing something, if that makes any sense. So just take whatever powder bronzer you have, and preferably that first brush we used for the eye wand, something of that shape. Cover the tip in the powder, so take it sort of just on the tip area. And then I tend to find looking down into a mirror helps. It really doesn't make anything look heavy, but it brings all the blended beautifulness together, top and bottom. Do you know what I mean? Rare Beauty blusher. I haven't used another blusher since I got sent these blushes. I love them, but they are very, very pigmented. This is how I use them. You don't have to use them the same way, but I find like the center of my cheekbone. So I'll dab one there and then one slightly higher. Same on the other side. Blusher brush, and without moving the product too much, pat it into the skin. Kind of stitch, like not moving it too far from where I've placed it. Don't panic. You want to make sure that it's just blended so you don't have any harsh dot or harsh clumps of product. When the product starts to disperse a little bit, and you will be able to kind of feel it, I know you can kind of see it here, that's when you can move your brush around a little bit and make the area of where your brush is hitting a little bit wider. Another little dab across the nose, but I tend to do that towards the end when I've got excess product on the brush rather than straight away product. Foundation brush again, don't need any new product. This is just gonna already have enough to do what we need it to do. And then take it over the top. Next, I'm gonna go in with the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette. This is a gorgeous powder, and I like using this just to kind of like zhuzh over my face. It's a really beautiful, sheeny, not shimmery, but adds something to the skin, and I don't really know what it is, and I think they're the best products. So this is more of a wider area powder. I'm not setting anything, I'm just using it to dust lightly over the top and give my whole face a bit of a glow without a shimmery or a wet glow or a spray glow or anything like that. Highlighter, I'm using the Refi Topaz Gloss Highlighter. What brush is this? This is a Spectrum B08 brush. A great versatile brush. I coat the brush just so that there's not loads of product in one area. The easiest way to find out where to highlight is to turn your face into a light or sunlight or something like that. Well, not something like that, some sort of light, and find where the light is naturally hitting, and then that's where you want to place the highlighter. So I apply with a brush, and then I take my finger and blur over the edges to make sure that it's all seamless and blended together. Tops of my cheekbones, down the bridge of my nose, and then a little bit on the top of my lip. I think I just lost my head a little bit because I've put bottom mascara on before top mascara. Weird. Top mascara, we're going to try Pillow Talk Push-Up Lashes. I think I have tried this once before, but I can't remember if I liked it or not, so we'll find out. My favourite way of using a mascara is to really hook the brush into the root of the lashes, wiggle, and then extend. By doing that, you're capturing all of the lashes from root to tip. It's November, so obviously we're going to do a red lip because 'tis the season. I've just wiped off my Carmex purely because my number one cannot do a bold lip without product is MAC Prep and Prime. Been using it for about 10 years. Nothing beats it. It's broken. Okay, ideally yours wouldn't be broken. You put it on like you would a lip balm. Make sure all of your lips are covered. When you put it on, it feels really not slimy, but it feels like a bit slippy. You want to wait a couple of minutes, and then when you press your lips together and you feel a tackiness, that's when it's ready to pop your lipstick on top. For me, Ruby Woo. It's a classic. You can use whatever red you like. Feels a bit like Pritt Stick now, and that's when you know it's ready. Red lipstick, I always do lip first. Straight from the bullet, I put it on my bottom lip. Try not to go too far to the edges. Then I press my lips together without rubbing back and forth and transfer that colour to the top lip. Then I go in on the top lip. You want to make sure that your lip liner is sharp, and the way that I do lip liner is by doing tiny little dashes and keeping my lips closed, only opening them when you go towards the corner. Once you've got your lip liner done, you can then go back in with your lipstick. I normally just tuck it both ways to make sure the inner corners are coated, and then you can go back in with a second layer. I want to slightly deepen the red, so I've got the shade Marrakesh. Okay, that, my friends, is the finished look. Could be day, could be evening, but it was more about sort of showing you the techniques that I'm loving, using constantly, always go back to, have been using for 1000 years. If you did enjoy watching this and you want to see more makeup videos, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what sort of things you want to see, what you enjoyed, and I will create. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.